You know that feeling, right? When you're talking to an AI and you feel like you're starting over from scratch every single time. It's like it has total amnesia. Well, there's a solution, and it's this really cool field called context engineering. And honestly, it's all about one thing: teaching AI how to remember. Okay, let's just kick things off with this quote from Mulam and Guli because it really hits the nail on the head. Stateful and personal AI begins with context engineering. That right there, that's the key. It's how we get an AI that doesn't just, spit back answers, but one that actually gets you and remembers you.
But what does that really mean, stateful? It's a bit of a buzzword, right? So let's break it down. To really get what that means, we've got to first dig into the huge fundamental problem that, honestly, every single person building with AI is trying to solve.
All right, section 1, the AI amnesia problem, or why do LLMs forget everything? Let's just call it what it is, the AI amnesia problem. It's the core reason why these incredibly brilliant large language models, LLMs, can also be so frustratingly forgetful right out of the box.
So the heart of the problem is this. Large language models are what we call inherently stateless. Now, that sounds super technical, but all it really means is that they have zero built-in memory. None. They don't remember anything from one conversation to the next, or even one sentence to the next. Yeah, their entire awareness, their whole world, is stuck inside this tiny little bubble of information we send in a single API call. We call that the context window. And anything, literally anything you said before that one single prompt, poof, it's just gone. It's exactly like trying to have a conversation with someone who hits the reset button on their brain after every single sentence you say.
Okay, so that sounds pretty bad, right? But of course, there's a solution. And here's the clever part. It's not about trying to change the fundamental models themselves. Nope. It's all about being really smart with how we manage what we put into that little context window. And that, my friends, is the art of context engineering.
So here's the official definition for you. Context engineering is the process of dynamically, and that word is key, dynamically assembling and managing information inside that context window. We're talking about grabbing past conversations, your preferences, relevant documents, all of it, and then carefully packing it into the prompt to create these smart, stateful agents. Now, you've probably heard of prompt engineering, for sure. So how is this different? Well, think of context engineering as its bigger, more powerful sibling. Let's put it this way. Prompt engineering is all about crafting that one perfect, often static, set of instructions. Context engineering, on the other hand, deals with the entire payload. It's about dynamically building a whole new state-aware prompt every single time. And that brings us to what I think is a brilliant analogy. Think of it as mise en place for an AI agent. You know how a chef perfectly prepares and lays out all their ingredients before they even start cooking? That's exactly what this is. You're getting all the pieces of context, the memories, the facts, the history, all ready, so the agent has everything it needs to cook up the perfect response. And this isn't just a one-and-done kind of thing. It's a cycle that repeats itself constantly. With every single back and forth you have, the system is doing 4 things. First, it fetches all the relevant context. Then, it prepares that context into a perfect prompt. Third, it invokes the LLM and any tools it needs. And finally, and this is so important, it uploads any new information back into storage. This constant loop is what creates the illusion of memory. All right, let's zoom in on this cycle. We're going to start with the first piece of the puzzle, the session. This is all about how the AI manages the here and now.
So, what is a session? Think of it as a container for one single continuous conversation. It holds all the dialogue history, the agent's working memory. Basically, it's the AI's temporary workbench. Imagine all the tools and notes for the project you're working on right now, all spread out in front of you. That's the session. But there's a problem, isn't there? What happens to a workbench when a project gets really, really long and complicated? It gets messy, right? It gets cluttered. And the exact same thing happens here. The longer the conversation, the messier and more cluttered that AI's workbench gets. And that messy workbench leads to some real-world problems. For one, as the conversation grows, the cost and the latency just shoot up. The models can also suffer from something called context rot, which is basically where there's so much junk on the workbench that the AI gets confused and forgets what's actually important. So we obviously need strategies to keep that workbench tidy, like summarisation or just trimming things down. And that leads us perfectly into the second major component,
This is the memory, the AI's filing cabinet. This is all about long-term persistence, and honestly, it's where things get really powerful. So, if the session is that messy, temporary workbench, then memory is the clean, perfectly organized filing cabinet. I mean, think about it. When you finish a big project, you don't just shove your entire messy desk into a storage unit, right? No, you go through it, you pull out the key takeaways, the final reports, and you file them away neatly. That is exactly what a good memory system does for an AI. And what does this memory unlock? Oh man, it's so much more than just remembering your name. We're talking about true personalization, where it remembers your preferences from months ago. It helps manage those super long conversations by compacting the history. You can even do data mining and analysis on the interactions. And best of all, it allows the agent to actually improve itself by learning from what worked and what didn't in the past. Okay, let's pause for a second. Because right now, I bet some of you are thinking, hang on, this sounds a lot like RAG, right? Retrieval Augmented Generation? And you're not wrong to think that. It's a super common point of confusion. So let's really nail down the crucial difference between memory and RAG. It's an assistant versus a librarian.
So if you look at this table, it all comes down to the goal. RAG is all about injecting external, factual knowledge from some static library of documents. The memory manager, though, is about creating a personalized, stateful experience based on the dynamic dialogue between you and the agent. But really, this last row says it all, doesn't it? RAG makes the agent an expert on facts, memory makes the agent an expert on you.
Let's just stick with that analogy because it's perfect. RAG is the research librarian. It's an expert on the world's facts. You go to the librarian, you ask a question about, say, the Roman Empire, and they go to the stacks, find the right book, and give you the factual answer. They're amazing at their job, but they don't know you personally. Memory, on the other hand, that's the personal assistant. They're an expert on you. This is the person who knows you like your coffee black, remembers the details of your last big project, and understands the context of what you're working on right now. A truly great AI agent, it needs both. It needs the librarian and the personal assistant to be truly helpful. All right, so we've talked about the amnesia problem, we've looked at the workbench and the filing cabinet. Now it's time to put it all together and see what tomorrow's AI looks like. Look, if there's just one thing you remember from all of this, let it be this simple idea. Sessions are the now. They're temporary. Memory is for forever. The session is the workbench for right now. The memory is the permanent filing cabinet that makes the AI actually feel like it knows you. Today, tomorrow, and a year from now.
And that really just leaves us with one final, kind of mind-bending question to think about. If an AI can actually remember and learn from us, what are we going to teach it next? Once we've really cracked this and our agents can grow and evolve based on their interactions with us, what's the first thing we should teach them? The possibilities there are just absolutely fascinating.